Hey everyone, my name is Steven and welcome to Story Time. Today we're going to be reading some r/malicious compliance stories. And quickly before this video starts, I just want to say about 60% of people who will watch this video aren't currently subscribed. So if you lovely person, enjoy these videos, please make sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an upcoming one. With that being said, let's get into the stories. If you think you can find another job in this economy, go ahead and try. Challenge accepted. I've read a lot of people having issues with jobs with everything that's going on, and it reminds me of an act of malicious compliance that I perpetrated back in the last economic crisis of 08-09. I worked for a large online website in what we call the operations center. Large websites have many servers, not only in number but in type. A problem is sometimes simple, like this server, really just a computer, is broken. But sometimes it's complicated. A dozen small problems have happened throughout the system, normally not an issue on their own, but together have become this perfect storm that freaks the whole website and takes it down. These problems are complicated, and often the individual developers are not familiar enough with the system as a whole to figure it out quickly. This is where the Operations Center are tasked with monitoring the system as a whole and connecting the dots on these larger problems. Different companies may use many names like Service Operations Center /SOC, Network Operations Center /NOC, etc. But every large website has this sort of group that acts as the custodian of the interdependent connections of the individual servers. It can take a year to a year and a half of learning how a website works before you're even useful during an outage, and many years before you're an expert and have the confidence to lead a shift. We ran 24/7, 365, all from one office in a major city. Half the people were on 4 10-hour shifts, others were on 3 to 12 half-hour shifts, with 5 extra hours every other week to make 80 hours every 2 weeks. Covering the whole week with no on-call, as we were staffed 24/7, 365. No need to call anyone at home, there was always someone at the office. I had been there for years and was dang good at my job. I had done several years on third shift and was ready to be done with staying up all night and basically being a zombie on my time off. It's tough to switch from being awake all night to being awake all day twice a week. So a new manager, let's call him Kyle, was hired, and decided that he didn't like the fact we were only getting freaked on sleep. He wanted to freak us just a little harder and dry. So he pulls me into a meeting room one evening when basically everyone except my 2 team members had gone home, slides this paper over to me, and starts telling me that the shifts have to be changed. And everyone has to work 5 days a week, and on top of that, now shift leaders have to be on call during the time period of their shift on their days off. Something about understanding common issues that happen during that time of day. On top of this, they were going to expect us to also do some kind of vaguely defined project work while we're on shift or something, which with our workload was absolutely ridiculous to expect. We weren't JavaScript or Java developers anyway, which was what the site ran on, so it was asinine to expect us to work on the web application in our spare time. We were ops, and while some of us were good at scripting, this was just a terrible decision. There were already teams there that handled monitoring and build tooling for us to use. The turd cherry on top of this poop sandwich was that he was moving me back to third shift, and I'd be working Wednesday to Sunday, no weekend, and on call at night during my 2 days off. After all this was laid out to me, I looked at him and said, we'd be working every day of the year, no time to unplug or get away from work. I don't know why anyone would accept this plan as it's laid out. He responded with a smug grin on his face that I will never forget. Well, if you think you can find another job in this economy, you're welcome to try. I literally, not literally as figuratively, but actually literally, had to bite my tongue hard enough to bleed to stop myself from saying challenge accepted out loud. Instead, I slid the paper back at him and walked out of the meeting room without another word. The thing is that good sysadmins are tough to hire. We're loyal, we have excellent problem-solving skills, and we enjoy a challenge. So I kept my mouth shut, started working overnights, and meanwhile contacted everyone I knew about the predicament I was in. I got Kyle to pay for a certification that I'd always wanted. And meanwhile, I was complying with all the maliciousness I could come up with. I landed an interview with someone who'd managed our group right when I'd been hired. I showed them how I'd kept growing as a professional, getting certifications and regular promotions. I let slip that only 2 days I'd be available for the interview were Mondays and Tuesdays because, well, they changed the schedule, and I'd have to keep my phone on as I'd be on call those 2 days. This led them to ask more questions about the changes there, and I have to admit I wasn't at all adverse to telling them how this new manager was changing things. I could absolutely see the disbelief on their face, and enjoyed every, "What? That's not how you run things?" This old manager was sympathetic, and so I had another job offer in hand within a month of the changes. I left a 2-week notice on Kyle's desk that said, "Despite the slight stagnant economy, I have been offered another position. Effective in 2 weeks, I will no longer be able to continue my employment with company." The little poop told me not to come back after 1 week. Didn't even try to schedule any knowledge transfer meetings where we share what we know when we leave. A common thing with technical employees. Cut off your nose to spite your face, I guess. Now he didn't have anyone to cover for that third shift with any experience for months. Mistakes were made, website problems were way up on his watch, which was tracked by another team. He had no one else to blame but himself. He did tell me I was welcome to try. Epilogue. I was always getting stories from the people who were left about dumb poop that he said in large meetings, but eventually he crossed HR. He said something mildly inappropriate in a meeting and someone went to HR and complained. He then went all in on his stupidity, and I poop you not here, God's honest truth, pulled that person into a meeting room alone and demanded to know why they went to HR. Insert Picard facepalm.jpg. He told them stuff like, "You come to me first if you have a problem with me," and "We don't go above other people's heads around here." The person was shaken, and the other people in the operations center advised that they go straight back to HR with it. HR wasn't ready to believe it and clandestinely called others to corroborate. Not only did they say it was totally true, but they all felt free to discuss even more inappropriate behavior they'd seen. Kyle was escorted out with nothing but a box of his belongings that day. Do not go past go. Do not collect unemployment. I don't know what happened to Kyle after that, but that was a bridge I was happy to burn, and dance and sing while it crumbled to ashes. And don't give up hope. This too shall pass. Businesses know this and will still be hiring for the long term. It will be tough, but you can do this. Do it! Interview on video conferences, of course. Talk to old co-workers and managers. There are opportunities even in times of crisis. Look for them. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Yeah, that's just a terrible manager. And the fact of the matter is, a sysadmin, that's a very hireable position. And if a good one is available, they're going to get swooped up real quick. Want me to keep my room's door open where it has acrylic paint? Well, duck your couch, Mom. Backstory. I used to live with my mom and little brother who had ADHD and was always getting in trouble. I have nice paintbrushes and acrylic paint that is very hard to get off of cloth. Okay, now on to the story. One day, my little 5-year-old brother was getting on my nerves, so I shut my door on him. My mom heard and came in saying, "We don't shut doors in this house." Me being fed up decides to shut my door again, and what do you know, she yells at me again, so malicious compliance. I leave my door open and go to my grandma's house, and when I come back, my mom is covered in paint, and our nice red couch has sea green all over it. Let's just say my mom let me shut my door and bought me new paint and brushes. Moral of the story, don't freak with a grumpy teen and her room. I do get it from the mom side, they're just trying to make the best of it. Unfortunately, they like to get into things and they made a big mess. I also understand OP's side where they don't really want to watch over them, they don't really want to babysit them constantly. And I also understand their frustrations when they get into their stuff and it's, well, all over everybody and everything. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation, but it's good to let them just keep their doors shut. Privacy is a good thing after all. This is why you never throw away emails from the boss. The company I worked for at the time no longer exists, so I don't feel too bad about sharing this story. This takes place in the mid-1990s, and I'm the sysadmin for a small tech company. We did all sorts of things for clients, large and small, but one of the more profitable areas was technical education. Think room after room of PCs for classes and training. Companies send us their people, we teach them databases or email serving, mainframe access using terminal emulators, that sort of thing. My immediate manager was an okay sort of guy, but was always looking for ways to cut money from the budget to look better for his superiors. Things like saying, "Why do you need 4 meg of RAM in the classroom PCs? You can get by with 2. You get the idea. Well, there was a new version of a well-known server operating system out of a company in the Pacific Northwest that was rapidly replacing the older novel installations, and there was great demand for training on this new operating system. Let's call it MT. Boss wants us to gear up to teach MT to the companies replacing their older systems. I say great. Here are the costs involved with purchasing X copies of the new OS for the classroom PCs. This email went over like a lead balloon. Email back from my boss says essentially, "No, just use 1 copy for all the systems. I have the CD-ROM in my office, come get it." I reply that we will be in violation of the license agreement for the OS and could face penalties. Boss emails back a little testy to, "Just do what I am telling you to do." So I wander over to his office and he hands me a hand-burned CD-ROM copy of the OS and the license code on a piece of paper. Not good. Once I am back in my office, I email him again, reiterating that this is not a great idea and could get the company in serious legal trouble. He says do it or lose my job. Alrighty then, cover your own butt time. I archive the email chain and print off hard copies for safekeeping. Some months go by and classes are rolling in and out of the building every week. All seems quiet. Then, due to a totally unrelated issue, the company gets audited. Auditors are everywhere looking for who knows what, but they eventually get to the training area. They quickly see that we do not have license keys for the 30+ systems running the new MT operating system. All heck breaks loose. VPs and CIOs start coming out of the woodwork like roaches. I am called into a meeting with my boss and every boss up the food chain to the CEO of the company. Rarefied atmosphere to be sure. The witch hunt begins. I am raked over the coals for putting the company in legal jeopardy. And what do I have to say for myself before I am terminated for cause? I was doing what I was ordered to do over my objections, etc. I look over to my boss, who has suddenly developed a bad case of Clintonian memory syndrome, saying, "I have no memory of that. I would never authorize breaking the law." Exactly what I was expecting. So I pull out the file folder with the email hard copies and show the boardroom full of executives the conversation. Boss gets red in the face and accuses me of forging the emails to deflect responsibility for this massive violation. Never in his life has he seen something so underhanded, and surely the board can see he's not responsible for me going off and pirating software for profit. Silence for a moment as everyone in the room stares holes into me. I reach back into my bag and pull out the CD-ROM and license code and asks if he wants it back. Some points to consider. There was only 1 CD burner in the building, attached to the boss's computer. They were still fairly expensive at the time. Only 1 real copy of the MT operating system had been purchased by the company, by the boss. Lastly, the Sharpie label on the disc and the license key were written in boss's very distinctive handwriting, on his stationery, with his letterhead on it. CIO looks irritated, says I can leave. I go directly back to my office and post my resume on the job boards. Got a new job offer in 2 days. The company was hit with massive fines. They never really recovered and went bankrupt the following year. My old boss? I went back to the area a few years later and he was selling PCs at Best Buy. No dishonor there, but a rather dramatic drop in pay, I presume. Absolutely. Always cover your butt. No matter what it is that I'm doing, I usually ask for it in writing. I might be contacting Amazon support about some price being slightly higher than what I ordered it, and despite them saying it's some clearance charge or whatever and it'll be refunded, I make sure that they email me the transcript. Definitely always look out for yourself in these situations. If you can record something and cover yourself, it can go the distance for you when you need it the most. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to and watching the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and let us know what you thought about these stories in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.